So, Jack.
Yes.
For me and for Dave, sum up your career for us. Give us a nutshell.
Yes, I went to the Coast Guard Academy when I was 17, graduated, spent the next 22 years in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
So that brought me up to 1986. I retired from the Coast Guard as a captain. Was fortunate enough to move into the academic world. Became a professor at George Washington University for another 22 years. Did research in disaster and risk-related things.
How timely.
Yes, always timely. And retired from there in 2008 and went over to Virginia Tech for what was supposed to be a month, but I stayed 6 years.
So that was
I retired from there. So
I want to hear about that third retirement after the second professor job.
And part of the apprehension of, I think, for all of us when we retire is the "who am I" question. I'm reminded of the cartoon I saw at the Baseball Hall of Fame where a kid is standing next to an older man and saying, "Didn't you used to be somebody?" And we all go through that, and part of that fit with my desire to participate in the community and getting involved in not-for-profits and being on the board for the Talbot Interfaith Shelter and eventually being president of the board for 3 years. That took care of any role identity and time issues I had. But
do you remember thinking about it before you left that university job, wondering how it was going to go?
Yeah, I knew I had to have a sense of contributing to something.
Uh-huh.
Because I was used to doing that. I knew I wasn't going to be the person that sat around. I wanted to be in the community. And the community from the beginning was both our local community in Claiborne and the greater community in Talbot County. But as you know, 2014 is the time that I was retiring for the final retirement, and with ideas that this will be full of travel and local community activities and things. Mm-hmm. Got another surprise, which was being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So I started the third retirement with, well, if you're looking for an identity, how about persons with Parkinson's?
Wow, Jack.
And that becomes a real identity. You had to embrace it. I mean, this, whether it's like it or not, this now becomes a large part of your personality and a large part of your physical entity. It affects how I can speak. It affects how I can move. It affects how I think, and it's a progressive degenerative disease. The medical treatments don't stop the progression of the disease, but they do alleviate the symptoms by providing dopamine into the brain. And as more investigation, the only things that you see that actually do slow the progression of the disease turned out to be things I wanted to do anyway, which was A, music, and B, exercise. And there are a number of programs that have developed specifically for Parkinson's.
Tell me the ones that you're doing.
Well, I started with something called the Big and Loud program, which is taught here at several of the therapists in the area. But I learned from, I also got involved in a Johns Hopkins music program where they created a chorus of people with Parkinson's and actually did a control group study to see if there was an impact on music, and choral singing on people with Parkinson's. And it went for 2 years, and I was selected for that. So I got into that program that way, and learned also about the Maryland Association for Parkinson's Support, which is the not-for-profit that funds these activities. And I met with them basically to say, you know, we don't have any of these programs on the Eastern Shore. And of course, you know, that what got me is a place on the board. We're geared with thinking of illness in a sense. I get ill and I get treated and I get better, or some people unfortunately get ill and die. But in our construct of disease, we don't have the idea we're going to have to live with a disease as a condition that's going to define you for a very long period of time. And that's the success. The success for me would be live more years with Parkinson's. It's not going to be get rid of Parkinson's. So what does that mean? So that means that you need to plan ahead for the foreseeable future, and it creates a kind of an interesting dichotomy. One, I think, as I said, you're going to be stubborn and almost act as if you're in denial and not let this govern every minute. But at the same time, you have to be very vigilant and alert and be aware of changes and symptoms, and they can be, because the symptoms can be treated, and some can be quite dangerous, and medications can be changed, but so being vigilant and being in denial at the same time takes a little bit of brain warp to do that. But
so your retirement story was going in a direction. You knew where you were going to be living. You established ties in that new area. You had a sense of the kinds of things you'd be doing, and then plop, Parkinson's.
right.
On the train didn't change direction. It just picked up a whole new set of materials.
Yeah, and it's a challenge to learn as much as you can. I find myself in a period of reading and sucking up as much material as I can, and I get to a place, the brain is full, and I'll put it down and not think about that for a while. And then 6 months later, I'll start another period of reading about things. But
is this a joyful stage of life for you?
surprisingly so, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's been a good relationship time for Judy and I, Judy being my wife. And we're relying on each other in ways that we only intellectually had envisioned, and then you're actually living it. Fortunately, we've always been good at joint decision making, and we don't end up going in different directions too much. As I said, it's opening my eyes to both the TIS experience and the experience with Parkinson's have opened my eyes to whole sub-communities that exist, and the fact that you can contribute and draw strength from other people is, I think, a powerful message.